So here we are at the Beat TV retreat. Tell me a little bit about how do you see TV fitting into your omni-channel advertising coverage area?
Yeah, I mean, my whole sort of trajectory of my career has been around digital advertising, really almost 20 years. And I think if we only think that way, we're missing something incredibly important, right? Which is consumers go to all kinds of places to consume content and to interact with brands. And so we made the decision maybe 2 years ago at Forrester that if we were writing about this thing called digital advertising, we were missing a larger story, which is how should a brand think about all of the ways in which through paid media they can connect with a consumer, and how can they do it in a way that is more connected, more seamless, more relevant, more meaningful to that consumer. And so that's sort of where the omni-channel notion was born. And just given the sort of scale and scope and importance of TV in all of its forms, it is clearly a huge and important part of this story.
So why now? Why is now the time to think about it? Digital's been around for 20, 25 years. TV's been around forever.
Yeah.
What is it now that's making this idea of bringing these things together so important?
I mean, for me, it should always start and end with the consumer, which is the way that people are experiencing and finding and interacting with content is much more fluid. I mean, much more fluid. Anecdotes are not evidence, but I know for my part, I'll start a show on my large screen smart TV. I will watch the middle of it on my mobile phone, and then I will finish it at night surreptitiously on my laptop. And that's all, to me, the same show. It's the same content. I don't think about necessarily the kind of mechanism by which I'm consuming it so much. And so how do we reframe the conversation around what it means to advertise with sight, sound, motion advertising in a way that works for consumers and works for brands, and of course works for the kind of content creators, the programmers?
Well, just before, when we were on stage, we were talking about the kind of different perspectives that the digital person and the traditionally trained TV person bring to it. So as we were doing that research, sort of what did you learn, and how did that shape how you're thinking now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We were partners on this new wave research on cross-channel video ad platforms, trying to look at this question of convergence of forms of video. And it was so clear that we together make up a whole. We are the yin and yang, where you have a lot of experience with and a deep understanding of traditional broadcast television that, as hard as I try, I can't internalize in the way that you have. Just like I can understand really nerdy concepts around programmatic pipes and real-time buying and decisioning that are just kind of less in your wheelhouse. And so when we think about convergence, it is that very thing, right? It is the sort of marriage of and balancing of the world of traditional television and the infrastructure, the business rules, the legacy thinking, the language, the skills with those of folks in digital. So it is neither one nor the other, but kind of a marriage of both. And we are not there yet as an industry, but we, as we were doing this research, we saw some really interesting signs of that kind of converged thinking starting to emerge.
Well, and speaking of convergence, just today, a very interesting thing happened that will be bringing together the more TV-oriented kind of content with the digital world. Tell us about it. Yeah,
today was a big day. We woke up this morning to find out that Roku had acquired the DSP, a company that's been in my world for a long time, Dataxu. And caught all of our attention. I think you sort of couldn't help but notice something that felt kind of big and important, where you have an incredibly important asset in the world of content distribution, especially over, more kind of digital plugs and pipes, right, in the OTT and CTV world in Roku, and kind of a pretty scaled user base, a lot of deterministic data, a lot of value there. Saying we want to have a buy-side platform. We want to have something that is really steeped in this digital world, that is thinking about this notion of identity as foundational, that is doing this kind of real-time buying and optimization. So for those two things to marry is really notable. The question is notable how and what does it all mean? It makes sense for Roku. That's a great thing for them to have. It's going to shore up the technology that they don't necessarily have, built in the way that the ecosystem would like them to. It gives them the opportunity to do all kinds of interesting things around audience extension and the like, which is evidently something that they're interested in. But the question is, what does it mean for buyers? And for me, because that's my audience, that's sort of a larger question. Does it limit their ability to get access to Roku in the variety of ways that they've gotten access to it before? Does it create some higher walls where there weren't necessarily such high walls before? Does it complicate their ability to do the kind of truly converged planning, buying, and measurement that we're interested in seeing? Remains to be seen, but that was my first thought.